Yeah, let's move. Yeah, let's move forward. Uh, Let me invite the next presenter, Abhishek Sharma from Object Automation, and he's going to be talking about the curriculum which we developed for designing SOC using the open power based code, and also he's going to talk about the various labs we introduce as part of the curriculum. Abhishek, please go ahead and start your presentation.
Hello Ganesh, thanks for inviting me for this presentation. I'm glad to contribute and talk about the curriculum that we worked hard on. I'm sharing my screen. I hope my screen is visible and I'm clearly audible.
Yeah, make it presentation mode.
Okay.
Slideshow.
Yeah, okay, fine.
No, yeah, looks good. Go ahead, Abhishek. Thank you.
Yeah, so hello everyone. Myself Abhishek Sharma. I work with Object Automation in different fields from SOC design to artificial intelligence and machine learning projects. So uh, we designed a curriculum for the faculty, majorly for the faculty from last few months. The idea was initially to, there is a gap between the industry and the academia. The tools, the technology, the systems that industry use is not generally in the syllabus of colleges or universities. So the basic idea was that we should explain and tell them that what are the things that are happening at the industry level. So this curriculum, which is Open Power ISA SOC Design, it was organized through IIT Guwahati, and it was it was conducted through IIT Guwahati, and it was organized through multiple faculties from different IITs like IIT Guwahati, Roorkee, and IIT Jaipur, Triple IIT Jabalpur. And this went on for around 2 weeks, for 40 hours, 4 hours a day, and for 10 days. And then the faculties were provided hands-on different labs like VLSI, where they simulated a processor in a FPGA. Then they generated a GDS file on one of the Oregon servers. So this was the basic idea. Um, so before talking or explaining the curriculum and the things and the goals, I'll talk about SOC in general. So its market and why, what are its driving factors and what is so unique about SOC, and then why we chose the open power ISA based system or SOC system, and why it is unique, and uh, why it is different, and why it is something should be considered in future for developing SOC chips and different edge technologies. So the SOC is an IC which contains the processor, memory, GPU sometimes, peripheral interfaces, and all the things like power controller and uh, different sensors. So if you compare SOC with a CPU, so like initially when we know when processors were developed or microprocessors were developed, so their sole purpose was computing something. They were not intended to have all the component inside that inside the CPU. So, but with time and with the miniaturization of component and the advancement in silicon technologies, so slowly and slowly we see that all these things are getting into the CPU only. So now what we see in our mobile or in different IoT devices is a SoC. So it has inside a memory, sometimes different peripheral connectivity and power management on all the things. But we see our old desktop, so we have, even in our laptops, when we have CPU, the other things are interface, they are connected with it. So SoC is something which is the future because it will have everything inside it. It will have your Wi-Fi, your 4G module, and the thing is that it reduces the power consumption and you could fit a SoC in a uh, very small circuitry. So you cannot have a IoT device like your refrigerator, which is a smart refrigerator and will have a different CPU and then memory interface with it. So this is this is the growth pattern of SoC. Gradually and slowly, we are seeing SoCs everywhere. So in at least in the commercial and consumer products, we see SoCs. But the problem with the SoCs, they are not upgradable. So you cannot upgrade the RAM or memory of your mobile phone. You cannot upgrade if your phone is 4G. You cannot insert 5G modem with it and you can use with it. So this is a comparison between SoC and a CPU. Even now, we see when we see CPUs, so they are getting different technologies inside it. So we see that GPUs are combined with CPUs, or sometimes peripheral connectivities or the power management with the CPUs in our laptops and different computational CPUs. So this is one report from a research company, it's a consultancy company, Gartner, and it said that the growth of the SoC is around 8.1% from last 4-5 years. It's a compound annual growth rate, and the market would reach around more than 205 billion in 2030. And this all is happening because the demand for SoC-based systems like embedded systems, IoT systems are constantly increasing. We see lot of electronic systems at our home. So SoCs are these are skyrocketing. Second reason is that in every component there is a SoC. So we have smart fan today. We have lot of electronics in automotive. So in 2000, if you see that if a car is built, only the 10% of the component is electronics or related to electronics. But today, a car is when built, 40% components are electronics. A time will come that more than 50% of the components possibly can be electronics inside a car or truck. So the SoC market is growing, and this is the driving factor of the market is the demand for the SoC. And as I explained before that all the components, the radio connectivity, the peripheral connectivity, the power management, the GPUs, APUs, all are inside a SoC. That's very compact. So we could use it anywhere, any device, any small device, any IoT device. And we could have network connectivity, which was not initially possible when you have separated CPUs and separated components. And these SoCs are driving next generation technologies like AI and cloud. So we see a lot of things happening in the cloud. We really don't need any software or tools and work in the cloud. And because the miniaturization and advancement in silicon, the efficiency of these SoCs are increasing. So power is dropping, efficiency is increasing, but the task or the performance are enhanced. So before I explain that what is SoC and the curriculum which was based on the SoC and development of SoC. So our goal was that we could develop a community or a technical community who are interested in developing SoC based on Open Power ISA, because Open Power ISA is now open source. And if you compare it with other players like Intel or ARM, so they are proprietary architecture. So we cannot build any product or SoC using their architecture. But Open Power ISA recently being open source, so there is a lot of pace in the development. And when I was an electronics student, but when I was in college, I was taught Intel-based architecture. I had no clue about power architecture. I did not know anything about power ISA. But after working with this curriculum and learning about the Power ISA, there is instruction sets, memory, I get to know that it is as good as other system, even more and better in comparison to other architecture. So the idea was that the curriculum would be based on Open Power ISA because it's open source, so that the participants, the learners, they could feel confident about the Open Power server system. They could use these systems, maybe perform some tasks, develop some products or machine develop some models over these systems. And like here in India, we see that in engineering college, uh, not much is happening or was not there based on Open Power ISA. So in the curriculum based on computer architecture or computer organization course, they could adopt new tools or technology, probably uh, the open source components, and so that their curriculum, their system could be enhanced. So this was our initial goal. So if I talk about Power, okay. So if I talk about Power ISA architecture, so hello, is my screen visible now? Okay. So if I talk about Power ISA architecture, so as other architecture, when a CPU is built, it is based on some instruction set. So like other architecture like x86 or ARM, it's a one more architecture, but it's a different one because it's open source and it's available for everyone to build something, to build an SoC. So there is a pace in this architecture. And in our curriculum, we explained everything about the instruction set of Power ISA, what are fixed and floating point instruction, what are the memory components, what are the interrupts, and different things, and all the things, the registers in the Power ISA architectures. So these things were the part of the curriculum. And after the course or during the course, the participant, the faculties, they were able to understand the basic fundamentals of Power ISA architectures. They got familiar with the tools that were used to develop Open Power course, and they get an idea, because these things are generally or previously were not part of many universities. So get to know that how could they build their own SoC, or they could enhance a new already developed SoC based on Open Power ISA, which there are many in the like in the technological world, like Microwatt or Liber SoC. So how could they contribute or work or participate towards those things? So now I'll talk about what was there in the curriculum. And for the prerequisites were system Verilog. So to design electronic circuitry or a system, we need to know this Verilog or any hardware level language, VHDL or Verilog. But this was the prerequisites. And in the curriculum, the faculties, they explain how could we design an SoC, what are the fundamentals, what are its components, how it is interfaced with different components, peripherals, what are the memory buses, what are frequency and timing, and these components, and these are the part of the curriculum. And then the IP verification concept was there in the curriculum, that the IP cores, which are building block of any FPGA. So, and how could we do a flow of the stimulus in IP verification environment, and what are different test benches, automation techniques we could verify IP verification. Second thing that was part of the curriculum was the SoC verification. So what is the building block of SoC verification? So we develop an SoC and then we verify certain components of it. Is it working according to the required feature? So the components, what are the components of SoC verification? Then how could then different type of test bench automation techniques in the SoC verification? Then how could this SoC would be integrated with different things? And then in the curriculum, the fundamental of FPGAs was explained, how it could be programmed and ported, how in the lab a microwatt processor which was based on Power ISA was simulated and it was demoed to the participants. Participants themselves generated the bit stream. They transported to the virtual labs and they simulated that in FPGA board. Another things that were part of the curriculum was the buses, the connectivity from core, open power core to peripherals, memory or memory to memory communication, and introduction about microwatt. So it's a open source core which was written in Verilog and it's freely available in the GitHub. So anyone could download and simulate it, and they could run in an FPGA board. It's a very small code. And then the curriculum was about the LibreSoc, how it is getting developed, what is its part, and what are the tools involved in it. And then 2 open source tools like OpenLane and Corylus 2. So these are completely open source tools. You don't have to pay to generate your RTL to GDS flow for this. And these tools, their architecture and their functionings were there in the part of the curriculum. So now I'll explain about the lab. So this was the VLSI lab, which was provided to the participants, and there is one FPGA board here, which is RT-A700T. And how could participants or the faculty connect to this board and simulate a microprocessor? So this is the basic diagram that the participant can connect to the server of the lab, and the server is connected to the FPGA board and a logic synthesizer and also a webcam, so that they could see that what's happening in their FPGA board. And they generated a bit stream for microwatt processor. They sent it to the server through SSH and other protocols using Linux, and then it was ported to FPGA board. And then the microwatt was running in this process in this FPGA, and people could test and try different components of microwatt also. To access this lab, one remote desktop software was installed in the server, and then Xilinx Vivado was installed, and a Logix analyzer tool was installed. So analyzer tool analyze all the signals like from different devices like oscillator or and then a webcam and one ID was provided to every participant. And then a VPN gateway was created so that Sugar could connect to this server. And here in the server, there was one FPGA board as I demonstrated, and a webcam, and then sensors. That there are sensors attached to this FPGA board. They were able to deploy their own code and see that what's running and what is the output. And so this was the first lab that was given or provided to the participant. Second was about how could they generate their GDS file, which means from starting from RTL to the GDS flow using Corylus 2. So OpenLane 2 was explained, it was demonstrated in the system, but the lab was provided of the Corylus 2. So there were participants who generated their own GDS file. The Corylus 2 was there in the server of University of Oregon, and it was developed by Sorbonne University. And then when participated, downloaded this GDS file in their own system, and then they ran a layout of this, so it looked like this. So this was the part. This was all about curriculum, and these are the contributors, the faculties from different NITs, IITs, GN2, Anandpur, Shastri University, KL University, and IIM Mysore. SRM University. And so yes, this was the browser, and this was the components and sessions and the topics that were explained, and the labs that was given hands on to the people. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Abhishek, for the brief intro about this curriculum. Whatever you guys did it,
Yeah,
by spending nearly 3 months, a day and night, and put together.
there was a lot new in this curriculum. Such type of curriculum is not there in the universities and colleges of India. So they still follow very old ancient pattern with lot of old tools and technologies. So this was very new and new tools and technologies and the new areas where things could go.
Yeah, there is a question from, Ramesh G who wants to ask some questions. Looks like Ramesh, you want to go ahead and ask your question? Hold on, we have a few more minutes actually. Let's quickly enable some people if they want to have any questions.
Any
Ramesh,
questions?
go ahead and